Hello and welcome to the first in a couple of videos on WordPress, a bit of a how-to series I'm going to be running, as well as moving into how to build a website with WordPress and developing for WordPress in a few patterns. I'm Sam, I'm a front-end developer by trade, and I'm a WordPress developer the last 5 or so years. I've worked with a number of hosting companies and here to kind of help you navigate your WordPress journey. So we're going to start with a bit of a history and then work into looking at WordPress, what it looks like in the current day, using a WordPress playground provided by Automatic. So we'll jump into that and have a look. So a bit of a history at the start with. WordPress was released in May 2003. It was a fork of a system from B2 Cafe Log by Matt Mullenweg, the gentleman on the left, and Mike Little, the gentleman on the right. These days, blogging was a lot more prevalent back then and is still common now. These days, WordPress can be used to power e-commerce sites, learning management systems or LMS, full phone application, backends, you name it. WordPress has a lot of more usages these days than originally kind of what it was conceived for back in the day, as the web has sort of grown. It is open source as well, which some folks may not know, but it is a open source free license, meaning you could take WordPress right now, change it, adjust it, do whatever you want with it, make cookie press or whatever you want to do, and it's yours. It is yours to change and do. WordPress and the whole community around WordPress are very pro open source, and it's kind of a theme you'll probably see from a lot of my videos as well. I'm pretty pro open source myself. Governance-wise, Matt Mullenweg founded Automatic, the company, which owns and operates WordPress.com. We're going to get into that a bit more in later episodes, into the big differences between WordPress.com and WordPress.org, but predominantly what we'll be showing is WordPress.org, which is the one that's hosted via hosting providers, companies like WP Engine, Bluehost, DreamHost, these sorts of companies. They just will sell you a server and you can run WordPress on it. That's WordPress.org, and it's the most commonly used version of WordPress, and that's kind of what we'll be looking into. CMS-wise, with WordPress being released in 2003, there were a couple of options back in the day, but if we have a look at sort of what today's requirements sort of are, and if we hop over to the next slide, WordPress, this might be a bit hard to see, but WordPress has a rough nearly 62.8% market share of most CMS systems or content management systems. If we look at that sort of scaled out to the web, that's nearly 44% of the entire web, which is astonishing and is market share that not many other players in the game hold. Shopify does come close, as does a couple of other sort of CMS providers, but they're very specialized because WordPress can do so much. It can be done, and so much can be done with it. You kind of find that it does just have a lot of that organic market share just organically, which is, pretty fantastic when you look at it. It's kind of broken up into a few categories. If we have a look, sort of Elementor, WooCommerce, WP Bakery being the predominant sort of ones. Elementor is a page builder, and we're going to have a series dedicated to Elementor. WooCommerce, which is e-commerce, sort of selling content via WordPress. We'll get into that as well in later episodes. And WP Bakery, it's a theme builder sort of similar to Elementor. Doesn't have as much market share as Elementor, but is equally as capable. And then there's a few others along here: Brixie, FoodPress, BuddyPress, LearnPress, all these sorts of things that are just, revolve around WordPress and how WordPress works itself. So if we look at WordPress.org as sort of zoom out, you can download WordPress yourself right now from the website. You can pick your own hosting provider. You can run it yourself. You can pay for a $5 host from DigitalOcean or GoDaddy, or you can pay for something more premium from other hosting providers like Pantheon or WP Engine, and scale near infinitely depending on what your budget is. WordPress really revolves around what you want to build, as well as how you want to host it and how you want to build it and who you want to serve it to. It's very flexible as a system. When we're looking at sort of how you build with WordPress, it's built around themes, plugins, paid and free options as well. You can maintain it yourself. There are services out there to offload that responsibility as well. But one of the big attractions to WordPress is the community. And, folks like myself who are, have been working in the community for a long time, or there's events around it like called work camps, which are sort of community sort of developers and non-developers get together and talk about WordPress and do talks. There's contributor teams. If you jump on the Make a WordPress Slack, that's a pretty good place to get started. There's social media events. There's tons around the WordPress community as a whole. And it's arguably one of the better sort of communities in the development space that really makes the product sort of feel very homey, as well as lots of volunteers and lots of people that are invested in your success with the products, because we want you to use WordPress, which is exactly why I'm producing these videos and working virtually with you, I guess, on that. I want you to use WordPress and love it as I do. Let's take a look at WordPress and kind of zoom out what it looks like. This is what's called a playground, and you can access these via the automatic website, but I kind of zoomed out and just wanted to kind of show you what it looks like on a back end. This is a WP admin, so this is sort of what it looks like when you're editing WordPress. But when you download it and open it and run it, or if you use software like Local, or use XAMPP, there's plenty of ways to run WordPress locally, and the later tutorials will use Local, and I'll show you how to use Local as well. But to sort of give you a rough run through, this is kind of what it looks like on the front end. I'll let that load in a minute. This is the back end of what we're looking at. So when we're looking at WordPress, I don't think a sandbox will actually be able to run this. There we are. So you're looking at front end. This is what's called 2024. It is a block theme. It is pretty bare bones in terms of how you run a site, but it is very scalable, very customizable once you learn how to use it. But it starts pretty empty. If we go back into our dashboard, WordPress's backend is called the WP admin, and it's built up into a couple key sections. There's your pages, your posts, your appearance, which is where you edit the theme, plugins, where you install and run plugins, and then your user management. Out of the gate, there's a couple of versions of your user. There's subscribers, admins, editors, SEO specialists, these kinds of things. And there are plugins that can extend what a user can do, which is pretty cool. Your settings is pretty self-explanatory. And then sort of other sort of more minor functions within WordPress. So, comment management, as you install other plugins, there'll be other settings along here. This menu can grow quite exponentially, especially if you use WooCommerce. But if we look at our appearance tab just to start with, you can kind of get an example of what a block theme looks like. In the current sort of generation of WordPress, WordPress is built around full site editing, or FSE, or the full site editor. And this is kind of what that looks like. This will vary depending on the theme you're using, but it's template based, and it is built around a couple key sort of components. And we're going to go through this more in the next couple of videos, but I kind of wanted to give you a brief overview of what this looks like. You can expand and click on the template, and we're looking at the main homepage template right now. And you can see these blocks and components. I've got menu options up here to toggle blocks to add in my blocks. I can see what my site looks like on mobile, tablet, or desktop. If I look at mobile, there we go. There's a screen adjust to run mobile. If I go to desktop, it'll run it on desktop. It's pretty intuitive to make sure you're designing and building components based on what your user is using. Back in the day, we would call this responsive design. Nowadays, it's just sort of modern sort of web design. But how you sort of interact with this is done with the document overview, or the list view on here. It's also got the document overview in some versions, and in the classic editor as well. But in this, it's called the list view. You'll see this named differently in a couple sort of spaces across WordPress. But we can see our template blocks here, which is made up of a header, which is this part here with our navigation, and then the title. You've got our group, which if we expand this, you can see we've got our header tag, as well as a query loop, which is what we used to call our blog posts. Spacer, which is kind of what it says in CSS. We would just use padding or margins, or build a spacer with a div and then expand this out, or a span. And then finally some columns. So like, hey, do I have any book recommendations? I can stagger this out. There's a column, an empty column here on the right. We could probably throw something in here if we wanted to, but it's more or less now just acting as kind of a divider, which you can do whatever you want with WordPress and build that out. It can be drop and drag. as well too. If you're familiar with a service such as Webflow or Squarespace, WordPress can work a lot like that. You do need a couple of plugins and the like to get started. And one of the sessions I'll be showing you is how to build a site without code. And then we're going to get into a version later down the line to build a website with code. But we'll kind of get that going later on. But like I said, WordPress is built up of a couple sort of key components: your appearance manager, your posts, and your pages. And if we look at here, we'll look at our pages and sort of see what comes out of the box. And there's not many in the block themes. You don't just notice you don't have a front page declared. You really run that out of your appearance editor now, but you do have a sample page. So you get a couple basic pages when you start. Same goes with posts. You'll always have a hello world, which is a programming joke for the non-technical folks in the rule. First thing you generally build with a new language is a hello world. But this is a hello world in our posts, and this has been going on since the early days of WordPress and the iterations of WordPress. And you can edit your posts the same as you can anything else. If I want to edit this and let it load, here we go. It'll give you a brief entry into our block editor. Click next through, get rid of this. And you can kind of see up here, there's our document overview that I was mentioning before. This is not a template, so there is no list view. It is a document overview. We're just editing the post, the actual document itself. So it only comes out of the box with a header, which is the page title, which is built when you create the page, and then a basic sort of paragraph. If I wanted to add more blocks after this as well, all I would need to do is either toggle the block inserter here, and I can drop and drag, or just click in and it'll insert directly underneath the most recent block, which is a paragraph tag. I can do that here if I pop in and click plus, and I can just drop in, let's say, a quote. I can do that, or I can just click it and it'll come in underneath it or inside it in this case. Or you can go back to your document overview, and I can actually click on my 3-button menu here and then click add after. Or you can, if you're a macro friendly person, you can go Control Alt Y, and it will do it straight afterwards as well. It'll always insert an empty paragraph tag. And in WordPress, the paragraph tag actually has 2 functions. So first and foremost is to write content. So hello there. If I can type, that's a paragraph tag, right? But I can also do a little bit more with it. So if I press this plus button, add a block underneath it, it will either give me an empty paragraph tag, or I can pick what I want. But I'm going to choose a paragraph tag because this setting here, this placeholder, is kind of key to the power of the paragraph tag. If you know what block you want to put in place here, you can just press the / button on your keyboard and it will pop up a couple of sample blocks. Because this is a vanilla WordPress install, I don't have many to choose from, but I'm just going to pick a gallery. And then straight away, that paragraph block has been converted to a gallery, which is pretty cool. And I can just go and open my media library, and I haven't got any media, and we'll get through uploading media in a later episode. But if I wanted to add content, I could just drop and drag some media here and then click upload, and it would upload them, and then I would have a gallery. Plugins and certain components also have settings tabs on the right here too. So if I went to my paragraph tag, the top one here, I can change the color of my text if I wanted to. That's a little bit garish. I'm going to change that to something a little bit easier to see. There we go. And then I can change as well. I can add a background if I wanted to. So I can change that to red. Look at my design skills coming out. Woohoo. And I can go ahead and change that across all styling, across all blocks individually. You can style them as much as you like. Some blocks have more advanced styles than others. It really just pays to have a play and muck around with what you can do, especially if you're new to WordPress or coming from a background where you've inherited a website and you need to learn how to use it. This is kind of what these courses are going to be for. But that's a bit of a brief overview to WordPress and a bit of a starter to what WordPress is. And moving forward, we're going to go through a couple key components as to what sort of these roles are here on the screen, what they do, what WordPress core is, how the core files work, how to download WordPress yourself as well, a brief language overview. We are going to build our site 2 ways, once with code, once without code, and then going through and kind of what these are. What is a theme? how the theme review process works in later sort of episodes, and as well as what a plugin is, how to edit content, all these sorts of bits and pieces as to what you can do with WordPress. And plugins are pretty powerful, and we'll probably spend a few episodes on these and how to edit them, upload them, these kinds of things. If you are wanting to develop a plugin, there'll be a separate course set for plugin development and theme development, because it's more of a basic sort of walkthrough. But you can kind of see here, example Jetpack hosted by Automatic as a powerful plugin as well. You can kind of see here WordPress is very extendable and very powerful, and we're going to get through everything you can do with WordPress as a non-developer and a developer, and we're going to hopefully enjoy our time and learn how to use the world's #1 CMS as per our stat here before, and go from there. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop me an email or a tweet or an Instagram message. All my details will be below in the YouTube box, and I will be looking for comments as well. Any suggestions on any content or any questions about WordPress, please do feel free to let me know. Happy to share some experience and would love to kind of help you out. My name's Sam again, and I look forward to seeing you later in the next episode. Take care. Bye, everyone.